is Sportscasters Anonymous, a weekly podcast about sports, all sports, MLB, the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, collegiate football, and collegiate basketball. But there's more. We'll even talk about sports video games, sports movies. It's all here. You're listening to Sportscasters Anonymous on the Random Chatter Network, broadcasting to the globe from Jacksonville, Florida. This is Don and Chip.
What's up, everybody? We are back again. My name is Don. He's Chip. Another episode of Sportscasters Anonymous. We're recording the show on May the 3rd, 2020. This is episode number 3. Chip, man, how's it going?
It's going very well today. I'm glad to hear things are getting back on track with all the different states lifting the stay-at-home order, and we are poised for a really good episode right now. So I'm going to go over some of the housekeeping things that we got going on today. So you can obviously contact us via email at chip@randomchatter.com or don@randomchatter.com. You can contact us on our Twitter, which is at sportscastanon, that's ANON. Join us on Discord, Random Chatter. You can also support us on Patreon at Random Chatter, as well as you can buy our stuff, randomchatter.com/store, where we will be hopefully getting our merchandise out there soon. But we are going to go right into the discussions right now. We'll start out with the NFL as we always do. We don't have the draft to go over, thank God. But we do.
Horse to beat.
No. We
dead
beat
horse.
that dead horse. We beat that dead horse very well. We're going to go with the first update we have here. So interesting enough, even though they still haven't decided whether they're going to play the season or not, but they're still speculating that they are going to. Vegas has come out with some numbers. Don, you should be interested in this. I want to get your opinion.
Man. Give me some numbers.
Yep. So they have Belichick as the coach of the year, going off. Let me see here. I know you're super excited about that. They got. Let me do this first. They had. Well, here we go. They have Belichick at 7-1 favorite to win Coach of the Year. They have. It looks like they have Joe Burrow to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. He is 3-1 odds to win that award. The second person on the list is Mike McCarthy at 9-1 for Coach of the Year. And they don't give a second person on the list for Offensive Rookie of the Year. They just have Joe Burrow in the article that I was reading.
So they think he's just going to be that impactful. They couldn't come up with somebody else to compare that to.
For Joe Burrow, no, I take that back. Yeah. It's down here at the bottom. Tua is 10-1. Justin Herbert is 30-1. And Jordan Love is 200-1. All quarterbacks.
Okay, well, that settles that.
Yeah.
Boy.
So,
God.
So I'm interested. The article basically goes on to say that the reason that they put Bill Belichick in there is because if Belichick can somehow take the Patriots to the playoffs, it will be better. The only other team that would be able to beat them is if someone went 16-0, because the Patriots are expected to do nothing. So if they win their division and they somehow make the playoffs, that's Coach of the Year worth honors.
Hello, are you listening? Rain on that parade. Please.
Yes.
Miami, are you listening? Rain on that parade. New York Jets, are you listening? Rain on that parade.
Yeah, so it was a quite interesting article. They did throw in Mike McCarthy in there. They're like usually a team that wins Coach of the Year or a coach that wins Coach of the Year takes a really bad team and makes them good. And they're like, we don't project any of the really bad teams to be really good this year because they were all kind of haven't really improved that much. They went on to say, like, Dallas Cowboys were 8-8. They weren't bad, but if they improve, they're the next likely candidate, which I can't see them being better than 9-7, but that's my prediction. That's my bold prediction for this year, and that might be a little bit biased, but
yes, that's where I'm going. Is that an unbiased opinion?
Oh, absolutely not. Okay. I mean, I would root for them to go 0-16 if they could go 0-16. That would be awesome for me. Like I would revel in that day because I could just throw it in every single Dallas Cowboys fan's face. But That's not going to happen. I still think they're going to go 9-7. I think they have no defense, but that's just me. So I don't know. I think those are pretty good numbers. I wouldn't bet on any of that stuff personally. I don't think that Belichick's going to get Coach of the Year, and I really don't think Joe Burrow is going to get Offensive Rookie of the Year just playing on the Cincinnati Bengals. He's got no help. I would probably
if I a long shot. That's what I want. Give me $10 and a long shot. That's all I'm asking for.
I would. So they say here that none of them are projected to be the team's starter come the season opener, which kind of makes it hard to, I don't know, make an opinion about who's gonna play. I mean, Joe Burrow is gonna be the starter. I don't know why they said that, but I think it was referring
maybe for the other quarterbacks, they're not sure. I mean, Burrow is the starter. Yeah. Done.
Yeah. So I mean that might be a surefire bet just because there might not be anybody else there, but I think one of the wide receivers might take that. You know, you never know. I guess it is a gamble. The more and more I look at it, the more and more I'm kind of leaning towards Joe Burrow. If I had a bet on that, I mean, you're the more odds maker off of Vegas than I am. So you can take that one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of other Vegas news that I see you have listed here, I see some information regarding the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, and the under-over on it. Looks like they're setting the market under-over of just under 1,000 rushing yards. Jackson, it is possible to get to that number. Vegas is really reaching here for some of this stuff this early in the season on the futures.
Yeah, so Jackson rushed for 1,206 yards last season, which was the single season record for a quarterback. He surpassed Michael Vick. They go on to say that there hasn't been a quarterback to run for over 900 yards in consecutive seasons ever. They looked at like Randall Cunningham rushed for 942 yards in 1990, but then 549 the next year. Vic rushed for 902 in 2004, and then 597 the next year. Vic ran for 1,039 yards in 2006, but then didn't play the next year because of his legal issues. So
I guess they're putting the under-over at 999.5 yards, an interesting number to say the least. I guess it's based on the assumption that defenses that play Lamar Jackson, they know he's a guy that will tuck and run. So
correct.
they're there's never been a quarterback to do it back-to-back years because the following season teams adapt to that.
Yeah, and I think the other side of the coin is that Baltimore's schedule, I think, is going to be tougher this year than it was last year. So that is going to add into the fact that he's going to be facing harder and more established defenses and coaches, and that's going to probably affect how much yards he rushes for. He's not going to be playing the New York Jets, Cincinnati Bengals of the world that much. So
interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You tell me. Would you bet on those odds?
Well, based on that, they're predicting he's going to do 200 and change yards less than he did last year. That's the number that they set it at.
Yes, correct.
I mean, yeah, taking the under or the over, with there being no OTAs, the draft just ended. There's not going to be practices anytime soon. Teams are trying to gel. So normally, you know me, normally I'm pretty in tune to an under over on any of these stats. That one, it just, oof. I'd probably have to wait a little while. The downside is if you wait a little while to start making those wagers, then the money line changes. So do I think that teams will adapt to him? Yes. But even the teams that adapt to him, do you think he'll be stopped? That's the question. He's that much of a threat. So can I see him breaking 1,000 yards and taking the over? I can see it. This one would have me nervous. This is something that I would wait and take some time to make a decision on, honestly.
Yeah, I look at the history of it, and to me, I would bet the under on it, just because you've never seen a quarterback, like when they throw out that stat, there's never been a quarterback that's run for consecutive years over 900 yards for consecutive years. That is a pretty noteworthy stat when you've had a lot of running quarterbacks in the past. To me, I probably would bet the under on that and live with the fact that I might be wrong on it. But some interesting Vegas lines that they're coming out with. Moving on, this was a big week this week as far as the 5th-year options. I know we discussed about it the last 2 weeks and explained them. The big thing with this that I thought was actually kind of interesting is the 5th-year option. There wasn't a lot of teams that picked up the 5th-year option for their players.
Specifically, it's that 5th-year option for first-round draft picks. As we said in the show last week, your first-rounders are your cream of the crop, franchise-changing players, your supposed best of the best, which makes the list even more unbelievable when you look at it.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna highlight the major points of it. They go through the deadline isn't there yet, but 90% of the teams have either exercised or declined that 5th-year option on their players. And when you look at the top 10, half of the top 10 haven't had their or have had their 5th-year option declined. So to highlight some of the players, Mitchell Trubisky, who's the quarterback for the Bears, declined, which is a prime spot, which is huge. Solomon Thomas, a defensive lineman for the 49ers, declined. Leonard Fournette, the running back for Jaguars, had his offer declined. The Titans wide receiver Corey Davis had his 5th-year option declined. And interesting enough, that's 2, 3, 4, and 5 picks of the first round. So those are like you pick that high, you're expecting these people to be franchise players that are around for years. So the fact that they're not picking up that 5th-year option is huge. Then you have John Ross for the Bengals that had his 5th-year option declined. And he was number 9 in that draft. The other ones had theirs either exercised, or Christian McCaffrey, who was number 8 in the draft, had his resigned. He was resigned for a 4-year extension for $64 million. So I mean, that's
earned his money. Okay, he earned that money.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's very interesting to see that so many people had theirs declined, especially at the top part of the draft. You most of the time you can go through it and you can search for the other ones. Most of them had theirs exercised, but the fact that the top 10, like half of the top 10, didn't have theirs exercised is to me mind blowing, because those are the guys that were supposed to be the cream of the crop, the top ones in it. I just look at it and I think that 2017 draft was just a lot of busts.
I wouldn't know necessarily if it was busts, but as we discussed previously, it could be the right player and just the wrong team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't work in whatever system they were put into. And if you look at that list on some of those teams, since they've been signed, there's been some coaching changes or big changes at a position that might have affected it. I'm not going to blame it on all of that, because a lot of these players, the teams are not going to pay that kind of money unless they know you've done your part. By declining half of the top 10 from 2017, these teams are saying, hey, it's not worth it, because they're coming off rookie contracts or what have you and into big money. And these teams are going, no, sorry, it didn't work out. Let someone else foot the bill.
Yeah, and to not get too technical in it, there's most of the time when you exercise the 5th-year option, you're getting the average. You're going to get paid the average amount of people at your position if it was what they call a transition tag. So there's 2 different tags in the offseason that a team can put onto a player to tell them that they own the rights to them. There's the franchise tag, which is exclusive, where they can't really negotiate with anybody else, and you get paid the average of the top 5 players at your position. That's your salary for that year, and it's a 1-year deal. There's also the transition tag, which is a little bit lesser. I think it takes in the top 10. I'm not exactly sure on all the numbers for that, but they basically average out. It's a lesser salary than the franchise tag. So the 5th-year option is in the idea that you're going to get paid that transition tag level. Now, the players that got their fifth-year option declined, that doesn't necessarily preclude the team from franchising him the next year. So in the instance of Leonard Fournette with the Jaguars, he can still get franchised if the Jaguars want to franchise tag him. So that doesn't like stop them from saying like, oh, we can't do anything with them next year. They're just going to become a free agent. They can still franchise tag them. So it's not the end of the road for them. Like Mitchell Trubisky, who's the quarterback for the Bears, and we've discussed previously with him and Nick Foles, they're going to kind of be competing for that long-term spot for the Bears quarterback. Now, they can certainly franchise tag Mitchell Trubisky next year and cut Nick Foles if they want to, if they find that Trubisky is the quarterback of the future. And that's kind of what they put themselves into. They didn't lock themselves into having 2 years of Mitchell Trubisky. They have locked themselves into just 1 year, and then they'll make a decision based off that. So some of the declining was because of situation, and some of them was declining because of how much they're going to get paid, and they're going to try to sign them at a lower number.
Couldn't explain it better myself, man. You hit it right, hit the nail on the head right there. So tell me about the.
I tried.
So tell me about the news here. We know that Andy Dalton. We knew it was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen this quick. Andy Dalton, after having his whole career in Cincinnati, unsurprisingly, was let go by the team. Joe Burrow is the quarterback of the future there. And Andy Dalton went ahead and signed with Dallas. He's going to be in Big D. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so he's going to be the backup quarterback for Dallas. He signed a 1-year, $3 million deal that could be worth up to $7 million. I'm indifferent about it. It's not like it's going to really affect anything that they do. If Dak does somehow get injured or is out for extended period of time, bringing Andy Dalton is going to be good for everybody else that plays Dallas, because Andy Dalton does not strike fear into the opponent. He's a decent quarterback. I think it's a good backup for them. It's definitely an upgraded backup over what they had. It's going to be Andy Dalton's going to be able to go to a winning team that he hasn't been on. Like, he hasn't been on a winning team in years, so it'll be good for him. I don't think it makes that much of a difference. It doesn't move the needle left or right. To me, it's just like it reinforces the idea that you need a backup quarterback in the NFL. You need a good backup quarterback in the NFL. I shouldn't say just need a backup quarterback, but you need a good backup quarterback in the NFL as an insurance policy for your normal quarterback who's might get injured. And you see that with a lot of higher ranking teams signing these veteran backups to take the place of their starter if their starter goes down. I think, and ultimately, I'm confident that's based off of what happened with the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl, and Nick Foles coming in after Carson Wentz's season-ending injury, and him ended up taking them to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl and having them not skip a beat after Carson Wentz went down. So that, I think everyone's looking at that formula and trying to replicate it on their team, that, hey, if our quarterback does get injured or has an issue, or there's something that goes wrong, or he gets sick or something like that, that there's this quarterback that's coming in that will just take the ball and run with it.
Unintended.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that was interesting was Brandon Cooks came out with a statement that I thought, that I put this in here. I thought it was looking on the glasses half full kind of side of things. Brandon Cooks is now the wide receiver for the Houston Texans after he got traded from the Rams, where he got traded from another team before that. So he's been traded 3 times in his 6-year career. So he's only been in the league 6 years. He's got traded 3 times. And he came out and he goes, I don't look at it as a negative. I look at it as I'm wanted. And I read that and I went, yeah, but you could also look at it the fact that the other teams didn't want you. So you can look at it one way or the other. I think he's putting a positive spin on it. It kind of made me chuckle, because that's not necessarily the way I would look at it if I got traded to 3 different teams. And he signed a huge contract, which I think is playing a lot into why he's got traded. But I just thought it was a funny comment from him, and I just wanted to throw that in there because, I don't know, he's looking on the positive things of having to go from a lot of moving around when he didn't. He's a good player. And it goes on to say he had 1,000-yard receiving seasons with the Saints, the Patriots, and the Rams, and now he's with the Texans. So it's 4 different teams. He got traded 3 different times. He's a fast guy, but the situation sucks for him. I don't know what your
Normally, you
thoughts
would
are on it.
expect a wide receiver. He does have a lot of talent. You just would not expect to have that many teams hopping around, or for him hopping around that many teams in such a span. It's kind of like an enigma because a lot of players that are talented at that position will sign long-term contracts. So
Yeah,
he's not the best, but he's not the worst. He is a very good wide receiver. So the fact that teams don't look to stay with him for the long term is a little puzzling.
yeah. I mean, he did sign a $81 million deal for 5 years, which is about $16 million per year, which is a huge cap number when you think about it, because it's not the way NFL contracts work. Is it's not always 81 divided by 5. There's signing bonuses. There's some years are more than others, and they manipulate around the cap. So I think that has a lot to play into it. Is his cap hit for the years is people don't want to pay, because he's usually the number 2 wide receiver on the team. He's never really the number 1 wide receiver. So I don't think a lot of people are wanting to pay $16 million for the number 2 wide receiver on your team when you're probably paying another receiver the same, if not more. Like with the Rams, it was Cooper Kupp and then him, and you don't want to spend, almost say both players are making 16, 15 million. You're paying $30 million for one spot for 2 players on that spot. Like that's a lot of money. You usually want to allocate that to your quarterback for whatever for other reasons. So it was definitely something that was.
Read.
Yeah,
It was a good read.
It caught my attention. The next thing that it was kind of on the same lines was so I don't know if you saw this or heard about this, but Will Ferrell made an appearance with the Seattle Seahawks players meeting. He, with the permission of the coach, which I thought was pretty cool. They're trying to keep it lighthearted. So essentially, all teams in the offseason are meeting, and Pete Carroll met with the entire Seattle Seahawks team, and he was introducing all the new players to the team and kind of giving them a forum to kind of just speak and tell them what they expect for the season. And Will Ferrell dressed up as Greg Olson and went on to talk about bashing some of the players and talking about, like, he kind of tried to make this like comedic, like funny statement through virtual with all the team, and he was like picking out Russell Wilson, and he was picking out some of the defensive players, and it was another like kind of haha chuckling thing that I thought was pretty interesting, with the players they're all trying to keep the best of the situation. And I don't know, these kind of like weird stories of like celebrities being involved in sports or just off the ball kind of stuff kind of interests me, and I kind of found it like a good read, good chuckle. I don't know if you heard about it, but yeah, I figured I'd mention it because I thought it was interesting. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I saw it and I'm like, what's this? I gotta read this. It was really good, and it's nice to see that in the sports world right now that coaches and teams are taking different approaches to things that they normally wouldn't do. They're trying to keep it entertaining, lighthearted. They still have jobs to do at some point in time, but hey, have a little fun with it. Why not?
Yeah. And then again, along another good read, or what I thought was very interesting, and you don't hear much of this with players, is Clay Matthews, who was a linebacker for the Packers for years, and then he went to the Rams, is filing a grievance with the league because the Rams did not pay him the $2 million that he was owed through unpaid guarantees. So a lot of times contracts will have like incentives, like if they get so many tackles or they play so many minutes, they get all this extra money. Supposedly he vented his frustrations publicly over these non-payments and then filed with the league. He also goes on to say that Todd Gurley was involved had the same issues, but decided not to file a grievance. And the major point about that is Todd Gurley is on a football team right now, and Clay Matthews is not. So The Los Angeles Rams were kind of waiting for Matthews to sign with another team so that they didn't have to pay him. But because Matthews isn't signed with a team and everything that's going on, he's
They're on the
quite
hook.
upset. Yeah, and if you know me, I'm not the greatest Los Angeles Rams fan, so I thought it was quite interesting to see them being, I don't know, kind of dragged through the mud. Needless to say, with this, I think this is low class. If you're gonna stick to a contract, stick to a contract. Don't wait for another team to sign them so that you can turn around and not pay them. It's kind of, I don't know, ridiculous. But
in general, part of the trouble that the Rams have is they did not handle their cap well. So any way you can get out of paying money, done.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. I'm personally, for me, I'm a very honest person. So if I sign something, I'm going to abide by it. Yeah. And I'm with Clay Matthews on it. Absolutely should file a grievance with them. And yeah, Rams. Good job, Rams.
NBA,
so
man.
You're going to move on the NBA. I watched The Last Dance today. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. I know we talked a lot about it off air. I'm going to give a quick, my 2 cents about it. I thought it's very well done. Episode 5 and 6 are going on tonight. The episodes are about 50 to 60 minutes, and it goes through a lot of the last season, but it also goes through a lot of the buildup. And each episode is centered around one of the players, or at least the first 4 were. So the first episode is about MJ, the second episode's about Scottie Pippen, the third episode's about Dennis Rodman, and the fourth episode's about Phil Jackson. And they give you a lot of insight and background and access to the players that you've never seen before. You get into their hotel rooms, you get into game day locker room, night before hotel rooms where they're going over tape and they're designing plays, and you get access to a lot of things that you don't normally get access to. I had the opportunity to be part of a college basketball team, and I got to experience an entirely different world than what you see on TV, and it goes back into those back alleys of that kind of stuff, and it's very well done. The first 4 episodes were phenomenal. An hour went by really quickly. I usually judge a good show by how much it keeps my attention. This kept my attention throughout the entire episode to the point where the credits came up, and I was like, I want more. It was absolutely well done. They go through the entire, and originally I thought it was just the last season, but they go through the entire, each player's career and how they got to Chicago, and then it kind of builds through their dynasty with still checking in with the final season. So it's not all just about the final season, which was great. I definitely suggest people watch it. It was like I said, very well done. I can't press upon that much. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you're looking, if you got nothing else to do and you're running out of Netflix shows to watch, then The Last Dance on ESPN is definitely, 2 thumbs up for me. So I don't know. I know you said that you hadn't had a chance to watch it yet, but I'd be interested to see your response to it. I know next week I'm probably going to talk a little bit about episodes 5 and 6, but I thought the most interesting. So there's a quote in the film that I thought was super interesting that I actually was rolling over. So it's in the first episode, and Jordan in his second year breaks a bone in his foot and goes through rehab, and he basically defies doctor's orders and starts playing basketball before they let him play basketball. He goes to college and starts playing pickup basketball, and never tells the team until a month down the road. He goes and tells them, and goes, "Hey, I've been playing basketball for the past few weeks." And they're like, "What?" And he goes to the doctors, and doctors are like, "Well, you have a 10% chance of refracturing your foot." And he's like, "Okay, I got a 90% chance that I won't do it." And the coach is like, "Well, what happens if that 10% happens?" They're like, "Well, your career's over." And Jordan's like, "That's 10%. I still got 90%." And the coach is like, or the GM's like, "You're not understanding. You have 10%. That's huge." He gives the analogy. He goes, "If you had a headache and I gave you 10 pills and 9 of them would cure your headache, but the one of them would kill you, would you still take the pill?" And it cuts to Jordan, and Jordan goes, "Depends on how bleepity bleep the headache was. And like he said, like no problem. Like, just depends on how much the headache hurts me. Like I'm still gonna play. Like, and it was, and as I was watching, the one takeaway I could take from it is like, we don't have players that are like that anymore. We don't have players that have the mentality that they just want to win. They're just gonna play the game and they're gonna just play it. Nowadays, it's like everybody's, you have certain players that play team basketball. You have certain players that play like that, but you have a lot of guys that are just, I want to get my own and just do my own thing. And the one thing is, like, that era of basketball between the 80s and the 90s, or in that area of just sports, doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. And it was kind of like, I mean, maybe that's just me, that I watch that stuff and I enjoy it so much because of the players. And yeah, they were all characters, but they weren't, I don't want to say like they weren't superstars, but they had a different mentality about sports and about the fame that players today do. I
honestly think for the NBA, for all sports, even hockey, who doesn't get a lot of recognition, honestly, but for all sports, especially with the NBA and football, I don't want to say this disrespectfully, but I think for some of the players, it's about the money. I mean, you would be naive to think it's not. Do you agree?
Oh, it absolutely is. I think that's one of the reasons why I love college basketball so much, is because it's a team game. Everyone plays for each other. You don't play the game to make millions and millions of dollars. You play the game because you love to play the game, and a lot of the players that are on those teams aren't going to make it to the NBA. So most of them are just playing because they love to play the game and they want to win, and that's all they want to do, is they want to win. It's not like, oh, I want to make as much money, or I want to knock up my stat line so that I can make that much more money next year when I sign my contract. It's like, no, you want to play because you want to win. And a
bonus
lot of
money for achieving X amount of milestones or whatever in the contract.
Yeah, and you see that with Jordan when they. So I thought this was pretty interesting, because I didn't know this. They actually brought him back on a minutes restriction, and he can only play 7 minutes per half. And it got so ridiculous that it was they showed the final game before the playoffs, and they needed to win the game to make it into the playoffs. And there's 30 seconds left. Well, Jordan hit his 14 minutes, and the general manager at the time came down to the coach and went, "If you play him 1 second past 14 minutes, you're fired on the spot." So there's 30 seconds left in the game, and they're down by 1, and they need to win the game to get into the playoffs. And Jordan was like, "I vowed that I would make the playoffs every year." He's like, he's pleading with the coach to put him in. The coach is like, "I can't. I'm going to lose my job if I put you in." So they don't put him in, and they ended up winning it because the other guy made the basket. But it's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. There is no such thing as minutes. Like, minutes restriction is like, I could go on an entire tangent with it. And it's such a big thing in the NBA today. Like, I'm all for load management. That's something different. But minutes restriction for an injury, to me, makes no sense, because you can't predict the future that someone's gonna, if you go past 21 minutes, if you're at 21 minutes and 1 second, you're more likely to break your leg than you are if you're at 20 minutes and 59 seconds. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Injuries happen. Like, you could say, like, okay, if they hit 25 minutes, then they're more likely to cause stress to the ankle, and that's what happens. But you can't say, like, 10 seconds here or 10 seconds there is going to cause more stress than, like, there is no, like, magic crystal ball or magic stats that they're looking at. That's people just over analyzing things way too much. Someone could take Jordan for example in this scenario. He could have re-injured his leg a minute into it, and that minute's restriction means absolutely nothing. Like, that's just people making, like, doctors and trying to influence statistics and analytics into somewhere where they just can't. Like, you have no crystal ball. Like, yes, you can play the percentages, like, oh, it's going to lessen your percentage to do it. Like, I get that point of it, but at the same time, there's no definitive evidence. Yeah, there's no definitive evidence to tell you.
Yeah,
Like anything can happen. Like someone could roll their ankle, like Zion Williamson did in college basketball, and there was no. They didn't say like, oh, he's playing too many minutes, so he's going to roll his ankle. No, he rolled his ankle and his shoe blew out. Like, who the heck was going to expect his shoe for him to literally bust out of his shoes in the middle of a game and sprain his ankle? Like,
should have
where's
known.
the
I'm sure
prediction?
somebody got fired.
like
That's the way they treat it.
He had too much wear and tear on those shoes. Like, no, like
Yeah.
who actually is gonna, make that
Those shoes are rated for 50 miles of court time. No more.
like it doesn't work that way. So I thought that was like the prehistoric medical management, and it was like Jordan like saying like this is ridiculous. All I want to do is play and I want to win. Like, just let me play. And you don't get players that are like that anymore. They're just like, okay, just let me play. They're like, and I hate to call them all out, but it's like the NBA and this like load management where we got to rest guys on certain nights because like back in the like NBA, and one of the I also watched the Bad Boys documentary that ESPN had, but one of the Detroit Pistons player was like, he's like, the only way you're not playing on our team is if you're on a stretcher getting stretchered off the court. Like, if you have a broken ankle, you're still playing. Like, they don't
Wrap it up.
like they don't do that anymore. It's like oh,
No.
I have my knee hurts a little bit. I it's a little sore. I think I'm gonna sit this game out. And I'm like, that's just kind of stuff just bothers me a lot. I'm like, no, like this is not like we haven't evolved to this thing where this is so much new. Like I don't know. I'm sure some doctor is going to show me all these stats, and I'm still going to believe what I believe. But that I could go on like an entire like 30-minute conversation about load management.
You know what though? But what one of these days, we'll as we get near the NBA season, definitely we need to talk, because I think the terminology is just load management. Okay, well, we will. I think we're going to make the call right here, right now. On a future show, as we get near NBA season, we will have a discussion about that, because I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. And it actually, like, the only people that are hurting because of it are the fans. So, like, when, and to not really go too much in depth to it, load management, I should probably explain that a little bit. Load management is basically, there's 82 games in a basketball season. So, coaches will intentionally sit out their star players for certain games to let their legs and their body rest for that game, because they're playing, 5 out of 7 days a week or 6 out of 7 days a week in a normal week. So they want to rest those players so that they're not constantly pounding on the court and can injure themselves or have sore ankles or sore knees or all this other stuff, so they can, when it gets to the playoff time, that they have enough stamina and they're not hurting as much to the point where they can't give their maximum effort during the playoffs, which is why they want to shorten the NBA season, because they're saying that, we're losing money because, you have Steph Curry going against LeBron James. Well, Steph Curry's going to sit out because of quote unquote load management. Well, that's going to, all these people came and paid this money to come see these two players, and they're not going to see these two players because one of the guys is sitting out because of load management. And most of the time it's like, oh, I don't play half the season because I'm waiting for just trying to get to the playoffs. It's getting to the point where they're going to have to shorten the season because they want to see the stars play all the time, and they're just not playing it. And it's a sin. It's surely a shame, but
you know what? I will tell you this though. There would be a way. I know we need to move along, but it just popped in my head. Players sign a contract for the year, right? 82 games and the playoffs, if your team makes the playoffs. I think an interesting way. I mean, the NBA Players Association would never go for it, but I'm sure the owners would. Be like, we want our star players out there. That's what the fans pay to see. Well, we need to load manage. We can't always put this guy or that guy out there. We have to be careful. Okay, so how about this? If he is supposed to play 82 games in a season, but the team we're playing isn't a real threat, I see no need for our starters to be out there, then I'm going to bench them. I don't think they should get paid. If
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
paying you for 82 games, but you're only going to play 41 games, why am I going to pay you that much money?
yeah,
Now,
it's
now
gotten
if you now if you get injured, that's a different story. That's like a workplace injury, so to speak. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to get your salary. But if you're intentionally going to bench said player over the course of the season because, well, we just need to do enough to get to the playoffs, why am I paying you that much money?
Yeah, it's gotten to a point where it's gotten a little bit ridiculous. At first point, it was like we're going to rest the game here or there, and now it's the entire league is going through it, and it's just to me,
It's ridiculous.
it's dumb.
Well,
Uh,
speaking of other
but
things in the NBA, we got here a projected start date for the 2021 season is December. Really?
yeah, so they put out an article. There are 2 points I have here. Basically, LeBron James came out after there was a report saying that they might cancel the season. That LeBron was like, no, nobody wants the season canceled. We want to finish out the season. And for LeBron to say that was basically like he's your superstar of the league, basically saying like, yeah, no, we're finishing out the season. No matter what you guys say, we're finishing out the season. And they're projecting now that like what we've been saying all along, and the NHL is kind of doing the same thing that they're going to start next year in December. So instead of starting it what they normally would be like end of October, beginning of November, or beginning of October, they're going to push it back to December and basically have their normal off season, but they're just pushing everything back and then having a shortened season next year. That was kind of the gist of the article, but I think it was pretty interesting to see LeBron was like, he's like, nobody I talked to wants the season canceled. And him to come out and say that, they were basically like, well, if LeBron says it, it's kind of gospel. We're not closing. We're not
Questioning it.
season. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not getting rid of the season. Season's going to continue on as it
I,
just
I
should.
mean, right now he is the face of the league. So for him to go out there and say that, I mean, people are listening. When he speaks to something like that, everybody's listening to it.
Yeah, he's kind of got that swagger about him.
Yeah.
But that was basically the only thing I wanted to say about that. Just giving an update on everyone that what's going to happen in the future. They're still kind of speculating it, but it's good to see that people or players want the season to finish out. Another interesting comment. Moving on with the MLB was
Some baseball.
yeah, some baseball, and we don't try to get too political on here, but I thought this was interesting. So Senator McConnell came out and said that America needs baseball, and that we I think it goes on to say that we're going to start probably in July is when they're expecting to start it. But he's like, we need baseball, and it goes on saying like not necessarily baseball, but we need sports. And he says we need sports, and he's like in particular we need baseball, which I thought was pretty cool. People realize that we need this sports to come back, and I keep thinking about it every day. Like people are getting stir crazy. We need some type of thing to latch onto, and sports is one of those things to latch onto. Like I'll listen to sports talk radio because they'll do old games, or I'll put on ESPN to watch some old game, and it gets me pumped up, and it kind of gets my sports fix for that hour.
The day,
So
it's just not. It's not what's happening now.
yeah,
You want it. You want now. You want
absolutely.
current. You don't want history. You want whatever is supposed to be taking place now.
And then moving on from that, one thing that I don't think was really publicized a lot that I found quite interesting when I was looking at it this week is, so the MLB did a players league for the MLB The Show video game. They had a bunch of players over the course of certain weeks play an actual season where they went head to head, and then they went through the top 10 people or top teams in the league and put them all into a playoff. And then they finished the playoff today where Tampa Bay Rays ace Blake Snell ended up winning it. And they said it was the inaugural MLB Show Players League, which makes me believe that they're going to be doing this for years down the road. So it's not like this is going to be one thing that's like 1 year. We're only doing this because of coronavirus, but it was something that I saw that I was like, I didn't even know that they were doing this. It was never publicized. It wasn't this big thing, but they did kind of like an entire baseball season, and then the top 10 teams or top 8 teams went into the playoffs, and then they played each other best out of 3 for each game, and it came down to where they only did 3 innings of a game. And they gave out awards. It was actually pretty interesting. They gave out awards for the season. They had like best Twitch name, best manager, most entertaining streamer, in-game MVP, best reaction. Which there's a video out there of this. It was Rhys Hoskins from the Phillies playing Cole Tucker from the Pirates, and during the game, Tucker vowed to Hoskins that he would name his firstborn child after the Phillies outfielder if he homered at the next at bat, which then Hoskins proceeded to homer on the next pitch.
Nice.
So
there you go.
It was like if you watch the video, and it almost happens like right after each other. It wasn't like there was a big delay or anything like that. Like he's like, if you hit this out of the park, I'll name my first child after you. And like as soon as he pitches it, it's like right after that, like in the midst of him saying that, he's pitching it and he swings and he hits it. He's like, "Oh, really?" And he's like, "Nope, I take it back. No." So it was
nice.
it was very, very entertaining. I think that was the only thing I really saw of the entire Players League. I didn't realize it was an actual league. I thought it was just two guys playing each other. And then they ended up donating. Boys and Girls Club of Suncoast receives a $25,000 donation, which is Snell's charity. So it's not like the players are getting more money. It's the players are donating money to different charities. Sony also donated $5,000 on behalf of the player to the Boys and Girls Club, which is cool. I think that's really awesome that they're going to do that. I just thought it said that this is inaugural season, so it was like, wow, it makes you believe that they're going to keep doing this every year, which would be pretty cool if they did a yearly like tournament kind of league like this. I think that might be a good thing that comes out of this whole coronavirus thing, is that they might do a video game league for the future, like every year. Yeah. Like players go on in their off season and do like a video game league. Like
I could legit see that happening. I really could.
It doesn't sound like the most interesting thing in the world, but it would be pretty cool to watch. Like you see some of these people's reactions, and people are talking trash over virtual, and you can see some of the players outside of their element, and it gives a different game. So I don't know. I thought that was quite intriguing.
Absolutely.
That they're doing it. So I don't know your opinions if you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, or
I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea. If you notice now, all the sports found a way to go virtual just about in one way or another. And the gaming community, a lot of people think the gaming community is like your first person shooters, like your Call of Duties or your League of Legends or your World of Warcraft or whatnot. And sports games sadly get kind of slighted in the gaming community, but there is a following for them. That is like the core of my library is sports games for my consoles. So if they were to do a tournament like this every year, let's say during the off season and whatnot, one, it keeps the engagement going up for what would normally be a downtime of the year. You know what I mean? Like with football, you have the Super Bowl, and then there's a few months off. Then we start getting some rumblings about the free agency period. Then it calms down. Then you have the draft. After the draft, you don't really hear much till about the time you get to the Hall of Fame ceremony and preseason football.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it takes off. I think that it wasn't publicized, so I don't know if there's a lot of viewership for it, but I think if word gets around, there might be a calling for it. I think people would be interested in it. I'd like to see not necessarily players, but also celebrities get involved that play the video games, or I don't know how you would do it, but I think the interest, if they publicized it, and it not doing like a basketball league and a football league and then a baseball league, but doing like, okay, just picking one of those, like, okay, we're going to do a Madden league with all all players and all the players that want to be involved and get like 30 players to do it and have like a season kind of and do it that way. I think that would be more interesting than having just players play each other or just grabbing random people. And you'd have to find something like that. Like they did the entire season and league with it, which I think was pretty cool. But more onto random topics. So the Little League World Series was actually canceled for the first time this year because of the coronavirus, which is a huge bummer.
Big bummer.
I'm a huge fan of the Little League World Series. There is a lot of competitiveness and pureness to watching the Little League. I know it's great to see the little guys play, and some of those guys are better than I am, hands down. So.
Wow.
I'm not a great baseball player. Okay, that was not my sport. That was not my sport at all. I could get walks, and that was about it. So
there you go.
But yeah, no. Some of those guys can really play ball, and it's gonna be sad not to be able to watch them. It's kind of along the same lines of everything else that's been canceled. It's a bummer to see stuff like that canceled. I don't know if you watched the Little League World Series that much or how much you were invested in it, but it's gonna be sad not to be able to watch that.
I'll watch it off and on. I won't watch all of it, but it's really it's a big deal, and it teaches early on that the true meaning of sports, like teamwork and working together. And with these teams have to do, my son, who will be 19 in August, has grown up since he could first swing a bat. He's been playing baseball every year of his life. And for the first few years, we didn't want to be like the parents that would just like go nuts, with it. We'll let him play. And if he decides he likes it and he wants to keep playing, we'll keep doing it. And he's played every year now, all the way up. And just to see what these teams have to do to participate in the World Series, just the sheer organization for Little League Baseball in this country is amazing. It's absolutely astounding. And between all the fundraisers and concession stands, and selling this and selling that and what they need to do, if you get a chance to go to the World Series, it's a big deal. It costs a lot of money, but for them, it might be that only chance in their lifetime to experience something like that. So I really think it's great. I love to watch them, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean it's intense. You see some of the fans and parents and stuff like that, and they get into it, and it's definitely gives players or it gives people something to watch that's not like, hey, we're watching these grown men play superstars. We're watching these little kids play, and it's interesting to see them. It always reminds me of the Bad News Bears when I watch it.
There you go.
All the time. So that's good. The other random topic that we were talking about. LeBron James revealed the Space Jam 2 logo and the release date for the film. I don't know if you've seen the logo. It's uninspiring. Nah. That's the only thing I can say about it. It's definitely uninspiring. When you look at it, it's not anything too.
Yeah, they really didn't work that hard on it, did they?
No, I mean all it is it's the word Space Jam, like space, and then jam over top of it with a like rings of Saturn around it, in like funky colors. And it's supposed to come out in 2021. It's and the actual title of it is Space Jam: A New Legacy, and it's got LeBron James and Bugs Bunny in it with Michael Jordan, and it's supposed to be the sequel to the earlier film. I'm not
a reboot.
No, they say it's a sequel. It's got Klay Thompson in it, Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard, Diana Taurasi. Sorry about that. I butchered that name.
Right.
But so
our apologies.
Yeah, they appear in the movie. It's supposed to come out in 2021. I'll wait for a video. And I might rent it on Redbox, or I just might wait for it to come out on Netflix or something like that.
So early on right now, there is nothing there that's telling you I have to go see this.
Unless the trailer blows my mind, and not many times does a trailer blow my mind. Yeah, no, I'm not going to go to theaters to watch this unless someone pays me to and pays for my food and everything like that. No,
maybe we could get the network to pay for our tickets to the movie because it would be like work related for us. Then if they'll be like, "How was the movie?" I'll be like, "Glad you paid for it."
That might be a stretch. That might be you having to finagle some things there, Don.
No, I'll pay for the popcorn, dude. I just want them to pay for the admission. That's it. Okay, then we could say it wasn't a total loss. The popcorn was good.
Yeah, you can buy the popcorn. I'll just have some of your popcorn, and I'll bring my own soda to the theater. So
There we go.
But
Oh,
yeah, no,
wow.
I when I heard they were doing a new Space Jam, I figured they might butcher it, and just looking at the logo, I'm pretty sure they're just gonna butcher it.
Well,
It,
I get.
it,
I
it,
guess to be fair, we'll wait for a teaser before we pass judgment.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
moving on. So this was interesting. This was unbelievable. I can't say the guy's name at all. It's some foreign name, but let's say Hafthor Bjornsson, I guess Bjornsson. I don't know how to say his name, and I probably butchered it like terribly. But he set the world record for deadlift yesterday. Um, he hoisted it. It was get this right. 1,104.52 pounds or 501 kilograms. He's the Mountain from Game of Thrones. So if you watch Game of Thrones, he's the Mountain.
Yeah.
He won the World's Strongest Man competition in 2018 and has finished third or better every year since 2012. This dude is built like a rock. And he's 6'9", 425 pounds. And that's not 425 pounds of like overweight. That's 425 pounds of muscle. That's insane. And that's over a ton. Because I believe 1,000 pounds is a ton. If you look at the bar itself, I thought was gonna snap. It's a metal bar, and like the bar itself is like basically bent when he's lifting it up. And I'm like, I can do like 250, 300 on a good day. So that's like 3 times mine, and I'm like, that's insane. Nobody should be able to lift that much.
Looking at it, that would be my question. I would look at that much weight, go up, and just be like, "Ow."
I might go up to it, look at it, put my hands on the bar, and act like I'm gonna lift, and go, "All right, I'm good." It's why I walk away. But
Been there, done that. I saw it.
yeah. So the previous record was 1,102.31 pounds, set in 2016. So he beat it by a whole 2 pounds.
Look, when you're putting up that much weight, okay, you know what I mean? It's a pound's a pound, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna count that against them. And a ton is 2,000 pounds.
Okay, so it was half a ton.
Yes.
But that's still insane. That's still like, again, I'm surprised the bar didn't snap or something. It's like the way the bar in it is bent. You actually have to lift it up higher to get it up off the ground because like the bar is bending, so it's still sitting on the ground. So,
oh my god.
I'm sure after they took the weights off, the bar itself was still bent. Like I can't see that bar being straight after that.
Yeah.
And then final thing that I wanted to talk about, I thought this was a cool story for you. I don't know if you saw this, but Linsanity is back.
Yeah, baby.
And not the way that you think. So, for those of you who don't know, Linsanity, Jeremy Lin was a player that was drafted. I don't know if he was drafted or he was signed by the Knicks. But he came in and I think he was signed because I think he was an undrafted signee of the Knicks. And he came in and he was a point guard that just lit the world on fire, and they called it Linsanity because he was just this like unknown player that came in and was like dribbling between people, making shots, and he was there for like 1 year, and they called it Linsanity because he like made the Knicks actually relevant. No offense, because the Knicks haven't been relevant in 20 years. Only when James Nolan's kicking his players kicking people out of the arenas and barring them from the arenas. So that's the only time they're ever really relevant, or they're missing out on free agents or not signing people. That's the only time they're really actually ever relevant.
Hey. This isn't rip on the Knicks. Keep your focus on the story. Thank you. Continue.
I'm just bringing people up to speed with the history of the Knicks.
All right, go ahead.
Murkiness. Anyways, so the Knicks to kind of bring up hopes for this upcoming season for the rest of the season or for the future. They contacted Jeremy Lin to do I don't know if it's like a documentary or it's like a 5-minute video of recap of Linsanity and put in his interviewing with a whole bunch of other plays and all this other stuff that they can then push out to the public, which I thought was pretty cool. I remember Linsanity. That was crazy. He was a good player for the half of the year that he was there for the Knicks, and then kind of fell off from there and kind of lived off of his fame. But people figured him out. But he was like a Harvard guard that like nobody ever mounted anything and became this overnight sensation in New York. So I thought it was pretty cool. It was a pretty interesting story that I was browsing and I saw. I don't know your opinions on Linsanity, whether you were a crazed Linsanity fan or you just kind of just rolled with the punches with that.
Well, let me tell you this: as far as the whole Linsanity was concerned, it was good to have something to cheer for. Because basically, the way it worked, more or less, when this whole thing started happening, the Knicks were 8-15, right? So
typical Knicks season.
Yeah, it's typical, right? So Lynn got called up from the what is it, developmental league, the D League. They call him up. He plays 36 minutes, scores 25 points the next night, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the end of that run, the Knicks went from 8-15 to 18-18, and Jeremy Lin was averaging almost or just over 22 points a game and 9 assists in a 13-game run. I mean, who would not be happy with that at that point? Okay, it was just like, wow. That caught New York by fire, dude. They were just waiting and waiting, like, please, something, anything, send us a sign, whatever the case is. And I'll say at the time, this kid came in and just totally torched it. It was all over the news. It was all over ESPN every day, every night. What did he do this game? What did he do that game? You know, it was like magic, dude. It was just amazing, even for a brief time. But still, it gave us hope. As short-lived as it was, but it was awesome. So I'm happy that they wanted to do this on MSG. It's really cool, you know. And it ties into everything else again. I mean, his story, especially now with all the stuff with the virus going on, we don't know. It really was a story of hope, so to speak, for the franchise. Like, what can we do? This kid's hot. Roll with it. So it was really cool. It was a good run.
Yeah, and he was like I was like I guess he realized how much of a big like sensation he was, but it like when they came to him and it said like, hey, we want to do this, he was as he said, floored by the fact that they want to like relive this. Like he's like, it was a big thing at the time, but he didn't realize that it transcended beyond that, and it kind of bridged the NBA G League to the NBA the way it is. I think at the time everyone thought as the D League is like the second tier, like nobody really comes from D League and does anything, and here's this player that comes from the D League that now comes up and is making it in the NBA. And for those that don't know, the NBA D League is the developmental league. They call it developmental league so that they can send players down there. It's kind of like the minor leagues of basketball. And he comes up and lights it on fire, and it's like wow, like nobody ever thought like these players that are in the developmental league can actually come up and be mainstream stars in the NBA. So it was pretty cool to see that them come to him and say that.
It was a great story, and when all that was going on, man, it was a heck of a ride. If you were a Knicks fan like I am, it was just like, yeah, this is great. So it was nice to see. But hey, man, guess what? It is that time. It is that time, the time that everybody's waiting for. Let's roll.
It's time for Chip's Chumps. Bad plays, bad players, awful calls, poor sportsmanship. The worst of the week with Chip's Chumps.
All right, guys. So here's another weekly edition of the Chips Chumps. We're going to start out with number 5 on the list. And I got to give it to Rob Gronkowski. Kind of unexpected, but he made a comment over this past week with his recent trade where he was like, I already got the playbook weeks ago. And it took the media by storm. They're like, wait a minute, you're not allowed to do that. Like, you can't have the playbook before you're traded. You're supposed to be on, like, and they thought there was some collusion and all this sort of stuff. And it's Rob Gronkowski being Rob Gronkowski. And my whole point of putting him on this list is I feel like you're going to see more of the personality of Rob Gronkowski now that he doesn't have Belichick looking over him. And you're going to see a lot more of the wildness of Rob Gronkowski and a lot more of these kind of things where he's going to say stuff that's like, hey, man, I was just joking. And people are going to take him seriously because I feel like Bill Belichick had an umbrella over top of him and was like, you got to act like a robot. So now Rob Gronkowski is coming out and he's basically saying whatever the hell he wants to say. So, all I got to say about that is moron. So moving on, number 4, we have the NBA G League, which we explained a little bit earlier, but the NBA G League is coming up. And they are now offering a way for athletes to go directly to the NBA. The way it works now is you have to have a year gap between when you leave high school to before you can enter the NBA draft. I put the NBA G League on there because I think this is absolutely awful for the NCAA basketball. They're saying we're only going to target certain players, but if you read the article, it's basically saying that they're going to target everybody in NCAA, and they're basically superseding the NCAA, and you're going to see a lot of top recruits that don't want to go to college, don't want to go to classes, and just want to focus on basketball, go straight to the G League to then go to the NBA draft. And you're going to see a lot of teams like Duke, North Carolina, Villanova get these top recruits aren't going to be getting these top recruits anymore because they're going to be like, I don't need to do that. Like happened this year with Memphis and some of the other teams that in the future have had players decommit from their schools and go to the G League because they're like, I don't have to go to college. Like, I don't want to go to classes. Nobody wants to go to classes. I don't have to deal with that and practices and everything like that. I can just go right to the G League and go straight to the NBA draft without having to go to college, which I think is terrible. Like, you should go to college. Like, you should get a college education. You learn a lot in college. You grow up a lot in college, and having people supersede that is stupid. So G League, all I gotta say is moron. And number 3 on the list is Emmanuel Clace. This is an Indians reliever that was suspended this week, 80 games for PEDs, for testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. They have been around, these tests have been around for so long that if you are dumb enough to get caught for doing a performance-enhancing drug, then you should be suspended. Like, don't put stuff in your body that you don't know where it's coming from, whether it be a cream, a powder. Like, do your due diligence. Like, these companies put extra stuff in their product because it gives you an advantage. So don't take it. Like, just work out normally. Like, first of all, you're a baseball player. You don't need to take a performance enhancing drug. Like, that's not going to help you out. Like, I know some of the stuff on the list is nonsense, like Adderall and all that kind of stuff, but this guy actually tested positive for an anabolic steroid. Like, that's just stupid. Like, you don't, like, it's dumb. Like, you don't take that stuff. You know you're going to get caught, and then now you're suspended 80 games. And with the shortened season, you're probably suspended for the entire season. Well, all I got to say is moron. And number 2 on the list is Justin Rohrwasser. He is the newly drafted kicker for the New England Patriots. If you don't know the story, he had a tattoo that he got when he was a kid of a it's called the Three Percenters, which is a political activist group that believes in very extreme policies. And he said he got the tattoo when he was a kid because he thought it was a cool image or something along those lines. And he's just like, now I have it, and I should have done more research on what the organization I was getting. He thought it was for the military, and they are, but there are also a lot of other things that's very controversial. And he didn't do his whole due diligence on it. And as a kid, like, if you're gonna get a tattoo that actually represents something that you believe in, not because like you just got it on a whim. Like, do your research. Like, that's just dumb. Just like, now you're an NFL player, and he's like, I'm gonna cover it up, and now he's like, I'm gonna get it removed, and now you got to go through all this stuff, and it's all scrutiny because you have this tattoo that's gonna be on your body for your life, and you didn't do your entire research on it. I know you're a kid, you do dumb things, but all I gotta say is moron. And the final one for number 1 on the list, I got to give it to Jordan Spieth. This is absolutely hilarious. So it is very rare to get a hole-in-one on a golf course. With the new coronavirus outbreak and everything like that, golf courses have been taking steps, as they should, to minimize the transmission of the virus by taking out flagpoles on the greens. So they have a automatic ball return system that people can just reach into the hole and grab their ball. They don't have to pull out the flag or pull out the pin to reach in to grab the ball from the hole. So they put these padded they put padded inserts into the hole to allow it to be less shallow, so that all they have to do is take their ball out. Well, Jordan Spieth, was at the tee, strikes it. It goes in the hole, and because it's shallower than it normally is, it goes in the hole and bounces out. And he lost a hole-in-one because of coronavirus, which is ridiculous. Like that, like I saw that and I was like, I just started dying laughing because that is the most ridiculous thing I ever said. You never almost, the hole-in-one by itself is just completely rare. And basically because of coronavirus, Jordan Spieth lost a hole-in-one. Like that, you can't get more ridiculous than that because it went in the hole and bounced out, and now he like. If that had happened in a major tournament, it would have been absolutely hilarious. He was dying laughing. Everybody was dying laughing. It's I don't know. You gotta say moron to that because there's nothing else that can be more ridiculous than losing a hole-in-one because of a coronavirus safety step.
I don't know if I guess you could say moron to that one. Just more like sorry, bad luck. Try again next year.
I'm saying moron to that one because the fact that they instituted that and didn't think like, hey, people are going to try to chip these in and it's going to go in and go out. That's moron. Like, I don't know. I've been on some courses and I can still reach in and grab my ball out of the hole without having the pin be there, or like you can hit it and if it goes and it settles, like I can understand why you'd have to take the pin out, but like. You're changing the game the way it doesn't need to be changed, and that's just I don't know. So, I would be extremely angry if I had hit a hole-in-one and it bounced out because of there's stupid pads, and I would be arguing saying that should be a hole-in-one no matter what. Like, so basically, it was in there.
So basically, for Jordan, should we say nice shot, and to the person that introduced the precautions, moron?
Sure, if you want to go that route, yes. Then we'll say moron. We'll say moron to that golf course.
I like it. Chip's chumps, everybody. Chip, great list this week.
Absolutely, I try to keep it fun, so we'll see that. We'll see what you guys think. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I know we had one person disagree with my Tom Brady this week's from last week, but I'd love to hear your comments. If you like it, if you don't like it, whatever you guys want to tell me, I'd appreciate it.
It's the final buzzer. The last moments of the show.
Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. As you all heard, we are at the final buzzer, the last few minutes of the show. And I would like to say before we get on with the movie of the week, we again really appreciate the feedback that we've been getting on our Discord show page. We've been sending some stuff out on Twitter. We're waiting for more community interaction with that. I've gotten word that we've actually gotten some more listeners, and all in all, so far, Chip, everybody seems to be happy with what we're trying to deliver for them.
Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully we can keep it going.
Absolutely. So before we jump to the movie of the week, I just wanted to point out, it's really not so much sports related. It does tie into sports a little bit, but we are now transitioning. Of course, coronavirus is the topic of talk for everybody every day. I just want to say that what I have seen in general in public and from athletes in sports and owners in sports and whatnot, through this whole thing, granted, some people are getting stir crazy now. Some people thought that the measures were a little too extreme. Some thought they weren't enough. But if you read through a lot of the news and whatnot, what I wanted to point out was, whether you're a sports fan or not, there's been a lot of instances where we've seen humanity at its best. People helping out one another, people stepping up to help those in need, people just going, hey, what can I do? These are challenging times for everybody right now. There are people that have been out of work. Some people are furloughed, some have been laid off, and we're all trying to navigate this in the best way that we can. So I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to, I guess, the populace in general. There have been a lot of real cool people stories, humanity stories, even like things that I've seen where I live, where older neighbors aren't able to go out, so somebody is going out to take care of things for them so they don't leave the house. There's a lot of real good, I think, that's come out of this. So I wanted to say thank you to all those people for making a difference.
I agree. Thank you very much to all those people.
So now that I got the sappy moment out of there, it's been weighing on my mind all week because I've been busy moving and whatnot, and just trying to read the news and whatnot. And people focus on the negative, but there's a lot of positive out there as well. But as we stated last week, if you got some free time, Chip, movie of the week, what you got for us?
So I went a little bit of different direction this week. I picked a comedy, not one of the serious films that I was doing previously. So I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but Basketball. It's a childhood movie of mine, and I think it's absolutely hilarious. The guys who do South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, are in it, and they're the stars. And basically, they come up with this new inventive game that they really like. They take the concept of baseball and basketball and put it together and make this game that they play in their garage in their neighborhood, and it becomes this.
Boy.
Yeah, it becomes this like this national phenomenon, and it's an absolute huge comedy, and it's completely ridiculous, and it's almost like a parody on sports and how ridiculous sports are, and how they're trying to get back to the purity, as they say, of sports. So it's a great comedy. If you got nothing else to watch, definitely watch that. It'll entertain you for a good hour and a half that the movie's on. And yeah, no, I watch that all the time. I used to play basketball with my friends in the schoolyard when I was younger, because we didn't have a full court, so we would just play basketball. And
right on.
It's a great game, great quick game that you can play.
It was a great movie when it came out. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. People are like, this movie's just stupid, and I'm like, it's great. Trust me.
Yeah, it's definitely that stupid humor, like the South Park type humor, where like everything's just ridiculous, and they like there's like one entire scene where they have like this Make-A-Wish Foundation for this like kid that's like this young 10, 12-year-old kid, and they're like taking him to the bar and they're drinking and he's doing tequila shots, and it's like it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's so funny and hilarious. It's one of my favorite films of all time.
Day in town, we could all definitely use a good laugh without question.
Absolutely.
Well, man, I guess that'll do it for us. Chip, episode 3 is done, man. We are moving along here, so unless you've got anything to add.
Nope, I think this went well, and I'm looking forward for more episodes. Let us know your comments, what we did, what you liked, what you didn't like, anything you want us to change, or things that you can, or stuff that you feel would make the show better. We'd really appreciate it.
Can't put it any better myself. Listen, everybody, we appreciate you for listening and following, and we hope you are enjoying the content they're bringing to you. Until next time, take care, everybody. Stay safe out there. We're out.
You've been listening to Sportscasters Anonymous. Your opinion may differ, but that doesn't mean you're right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. We hope you were intrigued or at least entertained. You can find the podcast on all the major networks. Find us on Discord and Patreon at Random Chatter. Hook up on the website at randomchatter.com and browse through the merchandise at randomchatter.com/store. We'll see you next time. This is Sportscasters Anonymous. Signing off.